Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here for another Scrap Your Scraps Thursday night. Tonight we are going to do a pop-up birthday card. I'm going to start with the basics, just creating the card itself, and then we'll go to decorating in the end. What I'm using is a shimmery, two-sided shimmery piece of paper, and I'm doing 8.5 by 11 because it's easy just to cut this in half and get two A2 cards out of it. A2 cards are 4.25 by 5.5 inches in finished dimensions. I am just going to cut this right down the middle. I'm putting it in horizontally. The horizontal measurement is 8.5, so that gives me 4.25. Wait a minute. Nope. Horizontal measurement is 11, so 5.5 is the halfway point. There we go. So we have two 5.5 by 8.5 inch pieces, which will fold to 5.5 by 4.25 cards. This is my 5.5 inch line. I now need to make my fold at 4.25 inches. So the 4.25 measurement is the halfway point between 8.5. And I'm just going to go in, and I'm going to do this lightly 3 times so I don't go through the card, and lightly 3 times. Oops, helps if you put it in the right location. If you make a mistake, just go and iron it out. Because I've created an error in this and I did 4 instead of 4.25, this is going to be the piece that I cut. You're going to need to have your cutter handy. So this one I'm just going to fold opposite. So I have put the valley embossed there, but I'm going to fold opposite the valley and do the same. So I've got the valley here. I'm going to fold against the valley, and that's so that the card doesn't fray at the fold. Now this is going to end up going inside that one. And you'll notice that if I do that, I have this extra hinge left over. So what I want to do is cut about 1/16 of an inch off the side that's open. So let's get our trimmer. I'm going to put this in, and we're going to cut about 1/16 off. We don't need a lot. We just need enough so that it doesn't show beyond the card when we're finished, because this is our outer card, this is our inner card. Now you can do this by just doing the inner card and placing a cover on the top and the back, but I find it's nicer to have the whole thing enclosed in the card. So you open it and it's all one piece. Okay. All right, so this is the piece I'm working with, which is the smaller of the two pieces, as you can see. Not very much smaller, but it is smaller. And this is my outer cover. So my outer cover is going to go away. Now my inner cover, I'm going to start with the fold down at the bottom of my desk here towards us. And we are going to make our first drawing of our first cut. So we are going to measure 1 inch in from either side and put a dot. There we go. And then a little ways up, we're going to do the same thing. I like using a steel edge ruler because there is no, you can line up the ruler right to the edge of the card and know that you're pretty much accurate. Now don't worry about these lines, because these lines you will not see. They will be against your card, so you can go dark if you need to make sure you can see well. And I'm going to go dark so that you can see my lines. So 1 inch in from both sides. Now this first piece is 1.25 inches tall, so we're going to do that 1.25 inches, and 1.25 inches is right there, and then draw your line across. I'm just going to get rid of these because I don't need to see extra lines when I'm trying to get things done. I just did that for purposes for you to see. Now we are going to cut these two lines, and we are going to fold this line. So let's put our fold line in there first. We're going to put the fold line through both parts of the card, and just go in between the cut lines and create our fold, and you'll see that it goes through the back and the front. Now take your handy dandy scissors, whatever scissors you like. I like these little guys because they snip right up to the top edge, and I'm going to cut those two side lines. There we go. And then my fold line is already ready. I'm just going to fold up my fold line, make sure it's nice and flat. There we go. Make sure these guys are nice and flat as well. All right, so that's my first layer of cake. I'm going to open this up now, and I'm going to push that layer of cake in the opposite direction so that I now don't have the layer of cake on the outside. It's tucked inside, and I'm just going to make sure that's nicely folded. All right, now I'm going to do my second layer of cake, and my second layer of a cake is again 1.25 inches. So let's get that measurement, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches up from the edge. Just draw a line there. You can't see it, but there it is. And then it's going to be 1.5 inches from the side of the card. So let's get our 1.5 inches, and within the same boundary, 1.5 inches, draw our line. Sometimes at this point I find that my ruler slippy on this glass surface. So there's my line. And again, I'm going to do the 1.5 inches, from the side, and draw my line. And again, this is going to be a cut, this is going to be a cut, and this is going to be a fold. So before we do anything, let's do our fold line. So we're going to open up our card. We only need the single side, not the double side like we did before. And we are going to create our fold line. There we go. Okay. Then we're going to fold it back up again. And this time, instead of cutting through both sides of the card, we're just going to cut through this section of the card. So I'm going to stick my finger in, making sure that I don't cut this side, and I'm going to cut along this edge of the card, right up to that fold line. Do the same on the other side, right up to that fold line. Okay, and then I'm going to fold. And make sure my fold is well folded. I'm going to open my card again. Sometimes it wants to stick, and I'm going to pop that through to the other side again. So now all we have is this section left. Now this one is going to be 3/4 of an inch tall. So let's do our 3/4 of an inch tall and 3/4 of an inch tall. Draw our line, and then we're 2 inches from the side. See my numbers. So I'm going to go 2 inches from the side to there, and 2 inches from the side there. Draw my line. Okay, on both sides. 2 inches from the side. Okay, so again, this is going to be a cut, this is going to be a cut, and this is going to be a fold. So let's put our fold line in first. We're just going to go in and get our fold line. There we go. Close it up again. And again, we're just taking that front piece that we're cutting through. So we're just cutting through this piece on the front, not the back. And we're going to snip up to the fold line, snip up to the fold line, okay? And then we're going to push that back, and all of that should stay hidden. You shouldn't have anything showing beyond the edge of the card. If you do, you've incorrectly cut on this side. All right, so this gives us the basic form of our cake. Now we need to adjust a couple of things slightly because we need to have a layer that goes across here, just like we have across here. So we're going to do a little bit more folding. So our first fold is going to occur not in the first section, but in the second section, and it is going to run from the cut, the inner cut, across at 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so you can just do that manually with your thing. All right, so that's our first one. Then our second one is going to come just here. I don't think we need that second one actually. Let's just see what happens with the first one. We might need it, we might not need it in this section here. Actually, we do need it in this section here, sorry. So, all right, so we've done nothing in the first section, 1/4 of an inch in the second section, and we need 1/4 of an inch in the third section. But you know what? Let me just make sure I'm right. So this is going to get, if you're looking at the front, you need to push this back. So it's going to get folded back. Okay, let's make sure we have a nice flat fold on that one. Pulling it out, using our fingernails just to make sure it's absolutely flat. And then when we come out, you'll see that that gives us the ridge. Now we have to adjust this ridge slightly. So we need another 1/4 inch on this side. So let's look at what that looks like. So nothing in the first one. We did our first extra fold here. And now in this space between the little square and all of that, we're going to put another 1/4 of an inch fold. All right. So our fold is there. And this fold also is going to be pushed in. So you're going to push that in and fold it to the bad side, if you want to call it that. And make sure you use your finger to make that nice and sturdy. Now when we pop all this out, you just need to make sure everything's folding right. And this should be your cake. Okay, so everything's balanced. You will have an extra fold line here, which will be covered with a piece of decorative paper when you go to make it. There's no way to avoid that fold mark, because in order to make each step move in and then for you to have equal boxes so that they line up properly as a cake when it's open, you have to have that fold. But that fold will disappear when you cover the front of that piece of paper. All right, now let's have a look how this all, so this all folds up like that. It pops into the inside of the card, and then if you glue it, it opens nicely. And the thing I like about having the outside the same as the inside and both sides of the card the same thing is when you put this all together, when you look in behind in this area behind the birthday cake, you don't see a different pattern. I'll just show you one here. See how you can see the back of this card is is showing underneath, and it has nothing to do with birthday. It's like actually, I think it's surfboards. So it's nice to have two pieces of the same cardstock, double-sided, so that you don't have an issue when it's all put together. All right, so now let's glue this down. This is like my savings grace. It is just so easy to use. Put my lid there. All right, so the first thing I want to do is glue the center line. So I'm taking my glue gun thing and I'm just putting some down the center line because I want that to fit properly with my card and this mechanism. I actually don't even need all of that. Just the ends is what I'm really looking for. Okay, I'm going to stick that into the center. Make sure it's pushed well in on either side, because that is going to be the point that is going to be the trickiest when you open and close things. So if I can close it properly with that glued the way it is, then all the rest will glue up nicely. And you don't really have to put a lot of glue. So if you're looking at the back here, I'm just going to make sure the mechanism and the edge of the paper is glued. So if you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, squashing that down. See, still opening nicely. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the front. I'm just going to glue across the edge, wherever there's an edge. It's not very pretty, not doing anything fancy. Just trying to get all that glue in there, squishing it down. So it's, that first glue was to keep it, oh, I got glue on the front. Got to try not to get glue on your shiny paper because you can see it. All right, so now that will open and close properly. And I have my nice little ready to decorate birthday cake or wedding cake. And you can see now that this outside looks beautiful because it's all matching on the inside. All right, so that's that. So now we have our card ready to decorate. You will notice when you open the card, it will not lay flat in this direction, but this card isn't meant to lay flat. It's meant to sit up and be a decorative piece on a mantle or closed within your envelope. So we don't want it to be an actual flat card. All right, so now we're decorating. Now we know that this piece down here is 1.25 inches tall, and we know that there's 1 inch between here and here, which leaves us 3.5 inches. So this piece here is 3.5 inches. I'm just going to write it right on there. 3.5 inches by 1.25 inches. This piece here is 2.5 inches by, and now we've changed the dimension of this one because we had to make it taller, 1.25 inches. And then our last piece is 1.5 inches by 3/4 inch. That's where the 3/4 comes in. Okay, and that's what gives us our front panels. Now I have some fun and funky paper here that I'm going to use to create those parts of the cake. And I think I will start, I'm going to start with the dark section of this, and that is 1.25 inches. So I'm just going to take a strip that is 1.25 inches that has that bluey greeny color in it. 1.25 inches. That's 1.25 inches tall, so that works. And now I need to make that 3.5 inches wide. So I'm going to do that, and that will fit in my bottom piece. And then wow, Look at that. Okay, that was a fluke, but I managed to get a second piece that is the actual size of my cake. So that was totally a fluke. But your second piece has to be 2.5 inches by 1.25 inches. All right, and then I think we will take a section here for that 3/4 by 1.25 inch. And I won't even need to use the stripy bits. So I'm going 3/4 inch tall by 1.5 inches. Okay, and then that will be my piece for the top. And this worked out like fluky, crazy great. Look at that cake. Alrighty. So now what we do is we glue those babies down. Doesn't matter what order. I just want to make sure that the colors kind of meld. I think it needs to be this way, like that, or do I like it like that? Maybe like that, because then it kind of takes the eye up. Nope, don't like it. I like the heaviness at the bottom there. So this is what we're doing. Alrighty, so now that I've, tortured myself with that thinking, we're just going to go along the bottom edge here with glue. Nothing special. It's just being held on. And we are going to put that dark bottom edge right along there. Now I always marry it to the top edge because you do have a fold at the bottom. And you want that fold to be free from paper so that your card folds nicely. Okay, and you don't want it to go over the edge of your paper because that's the icing on the cake. And I'm going to do it again. And this is the piece that had the fold in it. Remember I said it's not going to make a difference, which it won't, because we're now going to put this piece over top. And I had it going that way. And we're going to line that up. Make sure that it doesn't go over the edge. There we go. I might have to trim that a slight bit. It feels like it's just going over the edge there a bit. Pushing down. Make sure everything sticks. Glue on my fingers there. There we go. And I'm just going to trim ever so slightly that top edge because it does have a bit of a lip. So very carefully going in and trimming that top edge. There we go. Very carefully. Alrighty, there we go. And then pop that guy back out. Let's make sure he fits well. Yeah, that one fits well. So we're just going to put some glue along this piece as well. So that fluky business happened quite nicely. That all worked out very well. All right, making sure everything's flat. And there you go. You have your fancy dancy card. You have the nice inner lookings as the same. You have a space for your sentiment there. Now, how can you jazz it up? Well, if you want to make it a chocolate cake with chocolate icing or a different color icing, you can put that in with marker. As you noticed here, I did add chocolate icing onto this cake, and then I sparkled it with Wink of Stella to make it shiny and sparkly. Or the other option is you can use glossy accents or something to do it. Maybe I will, I'm afraid to add a color to this because I don't want it to get overwhelming, but this is pretty simple, and I still need to put some sentiments and things in there. Anyway, this is the basic card. I'm going to leave you with the, how to finish it off. In the beginning of the video, I'm saying this now, but you'll have already seen it. You'll see a number of the different versions of the card that I created in that cover page that comes on while you're waiting to watch the video. That's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please join me next week. If you enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends and ask them to sign up onto my YouTube channel. And every time somebody signs on, it helps me get my stuff out into the world so people can see it. So I would appreciate that if you could do that. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.